All right, good evening. Nice to see you all. All right, this week's Parsha was difficult to pick on what to speak about. So I'm going to try to speak about maybe few different things together, and we'll try to put this together. I'm starting off with a question that I think is amazing and very difficult to answer. But I think the answer we all know, and that's what makes it very difficult. Paro tells Moshe Rabbeinu that he shouldn't go out of Mitzrayim, the Amsuf, things are going to happen, etc. And Paro himself knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes people in water. Why did he go into the Amsuf? He sees a nest happening. Just imagine this happening. You see a nest happening that Klal Yisrael splits the water and goes in. What was he thinking is going to happen when he's inside? No, would you go in? Let's not forget, just think about what's been going on beforehand. He just had 10 makos that he was beaten every time, and Klal Yisrael was saved. And now Klal Yisrael has a super spectacular nace happens that they go in the Amsuf and it splits for him. Why does he think that he's going to make it to the other side? What was he thinking?
Didn't Nachshon do the same thing?
No, he didn't at all. Nachshon there was a tzibur from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that somebody should jump in, and obviously that they're going to be saved. Klal Yisrael didn't assume. No, it was HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "Do this," and that's a directive from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what Mushrobeno told him. Paro, if you would ask me, going into the Amsuf was a pretty big folly. Why would somebody do such a thing? Nachshon jumped in because he believed in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you want to make a comparison, so I want to know, what did Paro believe that caused him to jump into this murky
blindness of hate?
Blindness of hate. I believe that that's pretty close to true. I have a tweak to that, but I think that's really where the answer lies. Ellie, what do you say? Ellie?
I think Hashem hardened his heart and he wasn't thinking.
Okay, that's interesting.
How could one say he was thinking doing something that stupid?
Okay, I think that Alan answered your question, right? I think that's what he answered that question. But okay, that's good. Let's leave that, and then we're gonna come back to answer that question. The Dubna Magid has a mashal, and I don't recall where it is, but I'm going to use it for something over here. There was a man who was very, very rich, and he was looking for a son-in-law. So he went to the yeshiva and he asked the yeshiva, "I want to have the best guy," and the best guy was this, super fine Balmidos and learning guy and everything. They had one problem. He came from a very poor background, and he was going to marry this rich man's daughter. So fine, they figured they'll work that out. That's not so terrible. The man had plenty of money. There wasn't a problem how they're going to set these people up. And they got engaged. It came the engagement, and the rich man, who had a collection of all kinds of expensive charms, dishes, all kinds of what's called in modern day English stuff. Okay, I don't know really how you translate that word into old-fashioned terms. Probably people would call it junk, but stuff means a variety of things. And he decided at this wedding, at this at this engagement party, he's going to put it all out to show people his prominence. And the chassan came there, and there was all kinds of good food being served. And the chassan helped himself. Alan, why are you smiling? No one's offering you anything. And the chassan decided to partake of the festivities, and he was eating to his heart's delight. And he was really enjoying himself. At some point, he turns to his future father-in-law, and he says, they say you have all kinds of fancy tchotchkes, I guess that's the way they would call them where I came from, all kinds of interesting stuff. Could I see some of it? And the indignant father-in-law, or father-in-law to be, says, what are you talking about? Just take a look around. Can't you see all these odd things? These are part of my unbelievable collection. And the chassan just says, I didn't notice. Why did the chassan notice? Because he was so busy doing something else. Maybe if the chassan would have had prior training and known that these things are fancy things, that would have caught his attention. But if you don't have that background, you could even see unbelievably interesting things and just not notice. Okay. Next. This is just a few thoughts that I have. I'm going to try to put them all together. There's a Madrish that baffles the Mefarshim. Everybody answers this question. The famous Gemara Madrish, Chacham lev yikach mitzvos. A person who's smart, he takes mitzvahs. What's Chacham lev yikach mitzvos? This is Moshe Rabbeinu. All of the Mitzrayim went to take the wealth of the Mitzrayim, and Yosef went, and Moshe went to take the bones of Yosef, which were used. Mara Ayam V'Yonos. What did the Yam see and run away because of? They saw the Atzmos Yosef, and therefore they ran away. By the way, does anybody have any idea why did the Atzmos Yosef cause the Yam to split? What was so interesting about the Atzmos Yosef that said to the Yam split? Any takers? I'm going to share with you a tshuva in the Marsham. This tshuva in the Marsham is one of the my tshuvas that I use to show the difference between regular people and Gedolei Yisrael. Because they always find a raya from a Gemara, from a previous source. They don't say, I think like this or I think like that. This was the story that happened. In the old country, so there was a Poritz, and the Poritz had parceled out land to the Jews, and they used to work, and they had to pay them a high rent. And basically, the Poritz could get rid of them whenever they wanted. They were always at the Poritz's mercy, and the Poritz was always doing all kinds of things to get money from the Jews or whatever he wanted from the Jews. So one day, the Poritz needs money. He goes over to one of his tenants, a Jew, and he says, I need a loan, $10,000. So the Jew knows if he doesn't lend him the money, he's going to be in deep trouble. And he also knows if he lends him the money, you can kiss it goodbye. It's not coming back. So what do? What do you do in such a case? Reuven, what would you do in such a case?
Must probably lend them the money or give them advance on the rent.
You're only Jewish on one side. The Jew has to come up with some kind of a scheme. So the Jew says to him, the truth of the matter is that I just opened a gemach, and I'd be more than happy to lend you the money. But there's a policy. We have a policy that you have to have a guarantor for the loan. So I'm lending you the money. Just get yourself a guarantor. So the Poritz says, no problem. He goes next door to the Jew who's living next door. And he says, Ellie, wasn't you? What are you saying no about? And he goes to the Jew next door and he says, I need a favor for you. So the guy says, sure, what kind of favor can I do for you? So I need you to sign Arbus on this loan. Don't worry about it, I'll pay it back. It's not any problem. So what does the Jew do? Does he have a choice? No. So he goes and he signs the Arbus. And guess what happened? Who can figure out what happened? Did the parents pay back or not? The answer is no. So the Jew goes to his neighbor and says that you are a guarantor. Pay up. What are you out of your mind? You came with this cockamamie scheme because you know you can never get back any money. And just like you were coerced to lend in the money, I was coerced to sign on it. And therefore, it's not chal. You know, I know it's not chal. No way, I'm not paying up. So they went to the marsham for a psak. Anybody over here have a raya to what the halacha should be? Michiel, you have a raya? All right. I'm going to share with you the beauty of the marsham's raya. The marsham says is a Gemara that says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the Amsuf to split, so he said, I don't want. I have a job and I don't want to split. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, please split for me and I'll pay you back at a different time. You'll get wealth. You know, now you'll spit out the wealth for the Jews, and later time you'll be paid handsomely for splitting. So the Yamsuf tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Klum yesh evet teveya es rabbi. So the Gemara says, so he had Shemayim v'aretz be the guarantors, and it split. So the Marsham asked, what do you mean? And Shemayim v'aretz, they can go and collect from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? How did that work? Elamai, from here you see that the Arvis is chal, even though the Arv is coerced into it. Okay? Now I challenge.
There's no proof from that.
Why not?
Because Baruch Hu wouldn't have paid, they wouldn't have had to pay also. How do you know? How would Shemayim and Aretz paid?
They would have. No, that's a good question, but it's not a question that has to do with the subject at hand. The answer to that question is somehow they would have to pay.
Or not. Or they would pay.
Your question, Sheffer, your question is, what kind of arvis was that?
No, I'm saying they could not pay.
So then
They
it wasn't
would
an
not
arvis.
pay.
So then what would Kadosh Baruch Hu do?
He would have to pay himself.
No, but the arvis was, they did the deal. The deal happened. So it seems that there was a way for them to pay, that they're going to make sure that the Amsuf was going to get it. They had the means. I don't know. I accept your question. I don't know how they had the means, but that seems that was able to work, such a deal. Anyways, that's a fascinating thing for itself. Just you can say it over at your Shabbos table because it's a pretty cute story. It's a Jewish story. Anyways, so I have a question. What was the Yamsuf's problem? Why didn't want to split? Man, Coach Baruch Hu split, so split. What's the big deal? Whoa, you are so godly. He doesn't complain. He doesn't complain. That's not what the Madrish says. The Madrish says that I do my job. You know, I don't want to. That's it. I don't deserve it. I accept your answer. It's an interesting answer, but it doesn't seem to fit with the question over here. I think the answer to the question, this is my answer to the question. I'm going to go back in the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Mushrobeno wants to make makas dam. So does he hit the water? No. Why not?
Karsatov.
What do you mean? Right now, the water is going to perform a nes, and it's going to inflict tzaras on the Mitzrayim, where's the lack of hakaras hatoiv? You're making the water a superstar. Anybody want to answer that question? I think the answer to the question is very simple. When I say very simple, it means very simple. There are people who have a job, and that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're cut out to do. To do something different than their job, even if it's more altruistic, that's not what they're supposed to be doing. The Amsuf running is doing the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu al pi derech hateva. That's a shira to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You want to abuse it and have it work in a different way, could be it's a greater ostentatious service of Hashem, but it wants to do what it's supposed to be doing. The water wants to do what it's supposed to be doing. The offer wants to do what it's supposed to be doing. It doesn't want to turn into kingdom. It's serving Hashem. It's not doing nothing. It's in service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you say I should pervert my service and do a different service, why? This is what I was cut out for.
Why ask a question? Hashem tells you to do it, you do it. That's the new service.
You know what, Ellie, I like your question. I want to ask you a question though. Since I'm Jewish, we do that. And I'm not expecting you to answer it, and I'll try to answer your question. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Mushrobeno, you're the man, and go take the Jews out. And Moshe says, no, you obviously got the wrong address. I mean, where's the wiggle room that took a week's time? Even this very close, you got it there by then, right?
Great question.
Okay, but
by the way, just one quick thing. When it came to Moshe Rabbeinu standing on the mountain with the Melchama with Amalek, Hashem told him to take the staff which you hit the water. He never hit the water.
Right. Okay. I like that question very much. I'll just answer that question. This question is brought to you by, the answer to this question was brought to me by a Mispala and Ava Shalom. Okay, so this is a good commercial. Okay, if you look at the psukim in Parshas Va'era, the psukim have a stira within them as to who hit the water, Moshe or Aaron. And the Mefarshim say that Moshe and Aaron were considered one, and it was with Moshe's stick that Aaron hit the water. So according to those Mefarshim, those Rishonim who say that Moshe and Aaron are considered one, and it was whose stick that hit the water, so you have an answer to your question. Okay? All right. Anyways, but I like the good question. The bottom line is that the person has an avodah, and that avodah is what they're created to do, and doing something else is a perversion. So it wants to do what it was made to do. Period. So that's why there was a resistance from the Amsuf to split. No, it's unnatural. Maybe it's going to be sensational, but it's unnatural, and that's why the Amsuf. I don't think the Amsuf didn't want to split.
How does the Arvus and all that take care of that problem?
No, he's going to be paid off. You know, I'm willing to bend my back if you pay me. You're not a good businessman, right? People are willing to do a lot to get a buck. Anyway, whatever the buck is.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
The Bnei Israel just saw the 10 makos in Mitzrayim, and they all defied the laws of nature. So why would the Amsuf argue with Hashem? Because Hashem slipped his fingers and they would split. Why would the Amsuf argue? He can't argue. The Amsuf couldn't argue with Hashem. Hashem controls him because Hashem controls nature.
This is true. The Amsuf did not argue in the sense that he said, I'm not going to do it. He appealed. And he said, I don't want to do it. He didn't say if I'm forced to, I won't. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I'll pay you for it. And I'm just going to point this out to you, which maybe this is open-ended, but this is a fascinating thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't slam him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu acquiesced and said, I will pay you for it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu understood that the Amsuf had a right to want to say no. He didn't say you're disrespectful and kick him out.
So we're getting to where Yosef Hatzadik
No.
is the one that forced it.
We're gonna get back. I'm trying to get, now we have to understand. So the Amsuf, this is the Amsuf. The Amsuf split. It saw Aroinu Shel Yosef. What was so spectacular about the Aroinu Shel Yosef? Chazal tell us that Yosef, that he refused to commit a sin with Eshes Potiphar, excuse me, he did something which is unnatural, even for the Avos HaKadoshim. He went against human nature. So when Yosef stands in front of the Amsuf and he says, I went against human nature to do the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, boom, the Amsuf splits. Now, just as I said this over once on Friday night in Shul, I'll just tell this to you again. This is a fascinating thing. I have a friend of mine who's a Yeke, and his grandmother is a Belza Chassid. Comes from a Belza family. But he's a Yeke, lives in Washington Heights. He's a forget it, so to speak. He's brought up, and there's no change in him. And his parents went away once for Shabbos, and his grandmother was there to take care of them. And the Shabbos candles started to drip wildly. And the small children, they were frightened. So his grandmother took the challahs that were on the table, brought them over to the Ner Shabbos with the challah decal on them, uncovered them, and the wax stopped dripping, even though it was on a slant like that. It stopped dripping mid-slant, and it straightened itself out. And my friend, the non-believer, he tells his grandmother, what's that? So she looks at her miskein enikel and says, don't you know that there's a competition between the Neiros and the Chalois about which is more prominent in the Shabbos table? Hello, guys. Aren't you all aware of this? And he said, and the Chalas, when I uncover the Chalas tell the Neiros, look at me, I'm behaving. What about you? Why don't you clean up your act? And that's how it works. So my friend said, how do you know this? She said, Mimi, that's what the Belzerov used to do. So she did it too. Many years later, I saw that this is actually recorded in the Sfarim, this thing, and there's a question whether it's Dark Amari or not. But this Mahalach exists, is around. This is not, the grandmother, it's not a Baba Maisa. This is a real story. Anyways, so the question over here is, so we have the Atzmos Yosef, which is really important. Moshe Rabbeinu got it. So by following my train of thought, probably Moshe taking Atzmos Yosef is similar to Yosef and similar to the Amsuf. There was a mitzvah given by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Take the wealth of Mitzrayim. What Chacham Levi Kach mitzvahs? Everybody else wasn't just taking from Hefker. They said, Hinini muchonim zumun lekayeh mitzvah say, and then they knocked on the neighbor's door and said, give me your gold and silver, I just want to borrow it. They did a mitzvah. So why was Moshe saying he was one who did a mitzvah and they didn't do a mitzvah? They did a mitzvah. This is the Welt's question.
Moshe was potter from that mitzvah, you're saying? I didn't understand.
I didn't discuss that question. I said they chose that mitzvah and he chose this mitzvah. I can maybe answer that question, but I didn't say either what you suggested I did.
That's the mitzvah he had to do. He didn't choose to do it.
No, that's not the Chazal say. Chacham lev yikach mitzvahs. There's Mushrobeno that he did this and he didn't take the visa. That's what Chazal say.
I thought the deal was they couldn't go out of Egypt without taking Yosef. Ki Shebia. And that obligation resides with the leader.
Well, that it doesn't say anyways. If that would be true, then it would say Chacham lev yikach mitzvahs. That was his obligation.
Then you'd have to be talking about something else.
What do you mean?
Then the whole shir wouldn't be.
No. But this is. I have what else to speak about, so this doesn't have to be the. You want? We could do another piece afterwards. Anyways, the bottom line is, what's the point? I'm going to share with you something which I believe is very important. This is not a halachic issue. I'm speaking about a hashkafic issue. A person has two mitzvahs to do. One he enjoys and one he doesn't enjoy. Which one should he do?
The one he doesn't enjoy.
You're such a happy guy. Why should he do the one that he doesn't enjoy?
So eventually he does enjoy it.
By the Chamor Sonecha, we have the same story.
By what?
By Chamor Sonecha. If you see the Chamor is there.
The bidyuk, that's how we have a question to do your friends or your enemies. So the Gemara says you should do your enemies. Why? Because that way you'll work on your midas. Which mitzvah is easier, more enjoyable to do? To take Atzmas Yosef or to take the gold and silver? Boy, you guys, bad bunch. I think that everybody knows the answer, right? So the Chacham Lev Yikach Mitzvahs is he took the mitzvah that's going to cause him to grow. That's what he did. Now I'd like to share with you I don't know how much time we have. First I'll go back to what we started off with. So now, why was Paro so crazy to go into the Amsuf? The answer is money. He had a lot invested over here. He had a lot invested. So therefore, he sees things differently than others. He's blinded. And he'll say all kinds of things. Maybe this time it happened to be, the pasuk says it was a big wind and everything. So he can justify that this is really, a natural phenomenon, and he'll do all kinds of things. No different. And all you people say, to what ends can you go? And what about people who believe in Darwin's theory of evolution? I'll just quote Victor Miller. It's easier for me to believe in one God than 3 billion mutations. Right? The answer is, why don't they believe in God? Because they believe in God, they'd be forced to do what they don't want to do, or not do what they want to do, whatever you're talking about. That's what's going on. Now, there's a mechilta, and I guess we'll end off with this mechilta, the fascinating mechilta. The mechilta tells us, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu take the Bnei Yisrael through the long route and not the direct route? So the mechilta says, if they would have gone into Eretz Yisrael, they would have walked into paradise, they would have had food and drink and everything, and they would not have applied themselves to Torah properly. Therefore, he had them eat mun for 40 years. I want to ask you people a question. This is, I love to ask questions that are super simple. Why couldn't the Kadosh Baruch Hu just send them TV dinners? Why do you have to make man? I mean, he could, this is like some kind of, from Office Palais, this is what came out, the new design of food. What was the point? He was able to bring them slub. He could have had them have vegetation. If you could have water travel with you, you can't have them have a greengrocer going with them. What's the point of eating man?
I think the man was better because it could taste whatever they wanted it to taste like. It wasn't a set menu.
So why couldn't he just have like a choose smorgasbord? I know you'd never get to be milchiks, right? If you had a smorgasbord, but you could have a milchik one too. He said, why couldn't he have like the whole supermarket there?
It was
Easier to know that the man came from Hashem.
spiritual food.
Oh, okay. When somebody, I missed the second one. Who said something? Ari?
Spiritual food.
Spiritual food. That's correct. I think that's the real reason. There was training going on. Like nitna Torah elalom oichle amon. When a person wants to learn Torah, it's actually halacha and shulchan aruch. You cannot be immersed in gashmias. Person has to be spiritual. The man is the food of the malachim. In order for Klal Yisrael to be able to go into Eretz Yisrael, it was necessary for them to purge their bodies of regular food, and they sustained on spiritual food, totally different food. And that's how they prepared themselves to go into Mitzrayim, to go into Eretz Yisrael. That's one medrash. There's another medrash, another mechilta right after this one. And the mechilta says that the Canaanim saw the Jews were coming, and they destroyed all of their fields, all of their wells. They destroyed everything because they knew they were going to lose the war, so they want the Jews to reap the benefits of their lush land. So the mechilta says, why did Kadosh Baruch Hu have them go around? They had them go around the 40 years so that the Canaanim would rejuvenate that which they destroyed, so Klal Yisrael would be able to have the paradise, so to speak, of Eretz Canaan. So you have two midrashim, one back to back, and one says we don't want them to have Olam Hazeh, and the other one says we want them to have Olam Hazeh. You have to get there. Going through the Midbar is an experience of getting there. And the culmination, which I believe is very important, of the bottom line, the biggest nace of all of Yetzias Mitzrayim was Kriyas Amsuf. And Chazal tell us one of the things that was so spectacular about it was that they saw the Midah Keneged Midah. Yesh din v'yesh dayin. How long it takes for things to even the score is not clear. But yesh din v'yesh dayin. And going through the Midbar for 40 years, a very long time, and most of the time they did nothing. There were only one place. I think there was most of the traveling which they did was, I think, in 18 months, and most of the time they were in one place. Very little traveling, kind of boring, so to speak. You had to have a lot of patience. Going through the Midbar, we had a lot of patience. They ate the same food, and Ellie, you may be excited by the smorgasbord, but it gets kind of boring. Those people who cook and eat in high-end restaurants, after a while, want to go out and eat something, a piece of pizza. They want to eat something, something luxurious, like a piece of pizza or something like that. So anyways, the message of Parshas Beshalach is to take in what's around you. Paro didn't. The Amsuf did. And the Bnei Yisrael, through their travels throughout the Midbar, had this opportunity to soak in the lessons and understand what does living in Eretz Yisrael really demand of us.